When you put a button in a product and someone clicks it, you often need more than one reply. You need a job that can run for minutes, use files and tools, and work to other agents and still be there tomorrow. You need to send that job a note without starting over. You need a teammate to open the same ID in console and see the steps. And if you already killed an idea last week, the next run should still know that it died. That is the catch of Claude Managed Agents. I'm going to explain what that product actually is, when you would use it, and what we will do this hour, then we will click. Claude Managed Agents is a way to run Claude as a job on Anthropic's infrastructure from your own product. Most people meet Claude as a conversation. You send a message, you get a message back. That is the messages API. And it is the right tool when the answer is one completion, a title, a classification, a short rewrite. Managed agents is a different object. You create an agent once, a model, a system prompt, tools, maybe other agents it's allowed to call. You put that agent in an environment, which is where the work happens. Today we will use Anthropic's Cloud Sandbox, so files and comments live on their machines. If the work cannot leave your network, there is a self-hosted sandbox. We will not configure that live. Then a user does something in your app. That click does not start a chat, it creates a session. A session is one job. It gets an ID that starts with sysn. It has a status, it has a history, it can run for minutes or hours. If you close the tab, the session is still there. If you come back on Thursday, you send another event into the same session, you do not paste the whole problem again. The wire for that is events. Your product sends a user event, the harness runs the loop, think, use a tool, write a file, call another agent, send a result. Your UI is only a client of that stream. In this studio, the rail on the right is that client. Why would you want this? You want it when the work takes longer than a reply. An on-call engineer hits a button on a status page. An agent should read last week's post-mortem, look at the failing service, and come back with a page route human can accept. Finance on Friday wants a closed board from a messy spreadsheet, not a paragraph about accounting. A clinic front desk wants a visit packet, not a chatbot that pretends to be a doctor. Supports wants honor and a clock on 30 tickets, not an auto-reply. A researcher can leave session running, go to lunch, and read a trace later. A team can put the same agent on a weekly schedule so Monday's backlog gets walked without anyone sitting in the tab. You also want it when one model in one window is not the shape of the work. A lead agent can keep the order. Specialists can each own a slice, research versus write versus review, or in our case, Spark versus Diverge versus Prototype versus a proof of concept. They run in their own threads and push a result back. That is how you keep the main job from turning into a novel. You want memory when the next session should not be a stranger. A memory store is a folder of files that mounts into the sandbox. The agent reads it with the same tools it uses for everything else. Last week's skills, the house rules, the thing you already refused, that is what belongs there. A longer chat is not a memory. A store you can open in console is. You want a human gate when the job is allowed to be wrong in public. Greenlight means this walk is now low for the next run. Kill means write why and do not treat the draft as done. Guide means the job is still open. Send the same session back to a station and let it try again. You want console because the work has to be inspectable. The session ID in your UI and the session ID in console have to be the same string. That is what you hand a teammate, not a screenshot of a paragraph. There are things this product is the wrong object for. If you need an answer in 200 milliseconds, use messages. If you are changing a title, if you need a zero data retention or any kind of ZDR agreement, managed agent is stateful on purpose, so it's not illegal today. Delete a session if you need it gone. You are not building the agent loop yourself. You are not building the sandbox. You are not building tool execution. You define the agent. You start the session from a button and they run the job. That is the product. Now here is what I will present. So this hour is not a tour of 4 pretty screens. It's one managed agents button shown 4 times. So you can see it is not a trick of on-call. The pattern is simple. Your product has a trigger. Here that is walk it to POC. That click creates a session. A lead agent reads memory, then walks a design line. Spark names a mess. Diverge spend 3 product bets. Prototype writes the cheapest thing you could actually build. And the proof of concepts write the test you would run this week plus how you would know it failed. I want to be honest about what lands on the screen. The agent do not turn on a live pager and they do not print a real clinic packet. They draw a sample product UI for this week. Spark, Diverge, and Prototype stay as cards so you can watch the walk. POC is a sample screen under the board. An on-call route, a visit packet, an aging table, or a ticket board, plus a kill line. That screen is the proof of concept. Greenlight saves the walk into memory. Shipping it for real is the next step after human says yes. Each station is a specialist. You can set the same session back if the station is wrong. That is a guide, then you greenlight or you kill, and the store updates. Then we open console in the same ID and read the trace. We will spend most of the time on observe. We will walk it once, wait for the sample on call screen, criticize it, guide diverge, wait for the screen to change, open console, green light, and walk it second time with a poison spark so you can see memory hold a kill. Then we will run the same line faster on clinic, ledger, and queue. Same harness, different mess. So let me show you the 4 product briefly so you know what you are looking at. Observe is the on-call product. The pay button in the shop has been broken since 6:40 this morning. The server answers with an error. An alerting tool texts 12 people and nobody knows who owns the broken service. The last debugging trail is a message in Slack. Spark has to stay with that message. It should not jump to buy a monitoring platform. Diverge should write 3 small product ideas and they should be different. For example, only text the person who owns the service, put a link to the last debugging trail on the alert, or warn when this service has been failing too much this week. 3 dashboard is 1 idea in 3 fonts. Prototype is still a cheap sketch, 1 rule and 1 owner. POC is a sample UI under the board. You should see an on-call screen, the services, who gets the text now, where it routes, and the rule in plain language. Next time pay fails, only the owner should get woken. If 12 people still get the text, the idea is dead. That screen is the outcome. It's not a live pager. If the screen looks like 40 dashboard, you send Diverge back, then you greenlight or kill. The other app, Clinic, is Monday morning with 8 patients. The front desk asks the same 20 question on paper, and the nurse retypes the history. This is clinic operations, not a doctor. We do not diagnose on camera, and we only use fake names. The 3 pets should look like a printed visit packet, a tablet at the desk, or a brief visit from over SMS. Prototype is a list of fields. POC is a sample visit packet on screen, fake names, reasons, meds, allergies. You kill it if the nurse still has to retype. Ledger is Friday close. 10 invoices live in the spreadsheet, named invoices, for example, final V7, and 2 customers say they already paid. The 3 bits should be an aging board, invoices that come out of that spreadsheet, or a chase email a human still sends. Prototype is the columns. POC is a sample table, who, amount, due, status. You kill it if 2 rows say paid and the bank does not. The last app is Queue, which is a support. Tickets live in Slack and shared inbox. There are 30 threads and nobody owns one. The 3 bits should be a board with an owner, and SLA captures the Slack into a ticket or a clock on first response. Prototype is a fields. POC is a sample ticket board. You kill it if 10 tickets still have no owner at the end of the day. Under every board, there is a sample UI for this week's POC and a panel called Guide this session. You pick a station, you write what is wrong, and the crew replays from there on the same ID. When they are done, the sample screen should change. Green light comes after. So the crew is the agents, a lead plus Spark, Diverge, Prototype, and POC. We created them once and we reuse them. Memory is a store that will mount when we click. Session is empty until we click. After we click, this rail will show the ID, the banner, and the event directly under the Spark box. A frame waits for the sample VOC. So agent is the definition, environment is where it runs, session is the list of jobs. When our ID appears, that list and this rail have to be the same string. So let's start with the first app. And here's the night. Checkout has been failing since 6:40. 12 people got a text. The engineer who is awake only owns payments API. The trace ID, the one thing that would tell them where the error happened, is in Slack thread. Nobody pinned. They will not rip Datadog this quarter. They have this week on call and one service. That is a job, not a chat. A chat would invent a monitoring platform. This product should start a session. Read what we already said no to ripping Datadog and come back with a small thing we could try this week. So clicking walk to POC, we can see the state change to running, which means Anthropic's harness has it. If you close this tab, the job would still be going. Sparks goes first on purpose. Its only job is to write the problem in clean language. Who got hurt, what we will not do. It is not allowed to sell product yet. If it says buy Datadog, it means it skipped the line and instruction. When Sparks finish, Diverge wakes. Diverge's job is to spend ideas. I want 3 different product bets, not 3 names for the same dashboard. Honest example for this outage, send an alert only to the person who owns Payments API. Put a clickable trace on the alert so nobody hunts Slack. Warn when this one service has been failing too much. If all 3 cards are a nicer Datadog, Diverge didn't do its job. Prototype should pick one idea and makes it cheap. One rule, one owner, one Slack channel, not a company-wide platform. Then look up at the sample frame. That is POC. You should see a fake Slack message, which channel, who gets it, a link to the trace, the rule in one line. It is not a live pager. It's a screen an engineer would build this week so that next time Bay fails, the right person gets woken with the right link. So on the rail, memory should get read. We already killed rip Datadog this quarter. If that file is not read, this run is guessing. In the run we just did, the alert is a Slack message with Datadog trace link in it. The idea is when Payments API fails, the on-call person does not hunt a thread. They click the trace from the alert. That is a real small product. It's also incomplete. 12 people still get the text. A nicer link helps the person who already woke up. It does not stop the other 11 phones. Now the columns quickly. Spark should still be the outage. Pay is broken, 12 people, one service. Do not rip Datadog. Diverge should show 3 ideas. Prototype should be the cheap version of one of them. If the screen invented a launch date or platform, we kill it. If it is an honest small screen, we can work with it. So I'm not going to greenlight it yet. The sample still pages a crowd. I'm going to send the same session a note. Same session ID, we are not starting a new outage. We are talking to the job that already ran. I'm going to tell it the truth. The trace link is useful. It does not fix the actual pain. 12 people still get the text. I want the alert to go to whoever owns the payment API. In one channel with a trace on it, replay from Diverge. That button is sent to session. It's another event on this ID, not a new create. What is happening now is a point of session. The outage is still in the history. We added a human node. Diverge will spend ideas again with that constraint. Prototype and sample screen have to follow. So we did not retype the 640 outage. That's why this is a job and not a new chat. Before we had a better data log link and the same crowd getting badged. Now I want a quieter alert. One person who owns Payments API, one Slack channel. The trace still there so they can debug. What you are scrolling is the same night written as events. First the click, the outage text, then read on the memory folder because last week we already said no to ripping Datadog. Then Spark, Diverge, Prototype, and POC. That order is a walk. A second user message the guide I typed, then Diverge again, Prototype, and the sample screen again. That is a loop, not a new session. So if we have a new session with all the same memory file, we will see the difference between a guide and memory. Guides talks to one job, memory talks to the next job. It should read the kill before it invents a product. Ripping that dog is already in the graveyard. If the sample screen comes back as by the whole suit, the store was not read, and we stop and look at them out. What I want is a smaller alert again, owner, channel trace, and the suit named as already refused. So for the second app, the clinic, same job, different mess. Monday clinic, 8 patients, the nurse 3 type papers into the record while the room waits. Not a doctor, fake name only. Walk it to PoC, we wait for a visit bucket and not a hospital. Spark, then 3 ideas in a cheap sketch. The sample should look like a packet, name, reason, myths, allergies. If it looks like a chatbot that diagnoses, you can just kill it and then run it again. If it looks like a form she could use on Monday, then we can greenlight it. Memory should still have the diagnostic ideas in the graveyard. Same for the ledger. Friday close, 10 invoices in file called invoices. Final V7. 2 customers say they paid, not a bank. Walk it to PoC, we wait for the table. Who, how much do you paid or not? Then again, we have the sample frame. Also same for the Q app. We have the support. We have here support is Slack plus a shared inbox. 30 threads, nobody owns a ticket, not an auto reply pod. And then we click walk it to PoC. Again, we have the sample frame. Then we just greenlight it if we need to make it possible to be in the board for tomorrow. Either we can just kill it if it is auto replies. We did one long walk on observes. A click started a job. We sent that same job a note. Console had the same ID. Then a second night, same memory. So killed ID stayed dead. Clinic, ledger, and queue were the same button on different mess. Glance, gate, move. The rule is simple. A session holds a walk. A store holds a graveyard. You still say yes or no for any kind of changes or ideas. So we can do a quick walkthrough for the code base. We have the Python server and we have 4 HTML pages and a small client that talks to Anthropic. We go to the server.py and we see the run app, which does not run Claude locally. It calls create a session. Point at the payload, the lead agent, the environment, the memory store mounted, read write, and the inbox as the first user event. That is a click becoming a job. The HTTP code itself is one line in ma client.py. Around the line 139, we have the post for the session. Back to the server.py, we can jump to the guide. And the guide is not a new session. It's the same session ID, which sends events. The body is the note you typed plus which station to reply from. That's why the ID on the rail did not change when we did it for the observe app. Greenlight and kill are the same call with different synthesis. Write the walk into memory or write why it died. We have the catalog.py and it's who is allowed to work. Walk through agents, builds 4 specialists and 1 lead. The lead's prompt is the order. Read memory, Spark, Diverge, Prototype, PoC, and if a guide arrives, stay in this session. Observe agents is the on-call version of that. So Spark names the outage, Diverge finds 3 pets, Prototype keeps it cheap, PoC must fill sample UI, and the kill line. 12 people still get the text. Sample.js is why Slack mock appears on the page. It reads that JSON, empty sample underscore UI means a blank frame. Memory file lives in seed. Observes graveyard is seed observe memory.md. That is what mounts on every run. So actually at the end, the UI is a client. The job lives on Anthropic. Walk it to PoC hits the run app. That is a session.create, the lead agent, the sandbox, the memory store mounted, and the inbox as the first user event. We ask it to walk the line and fill sample UI so we can draw a screen. Guide hits the same session, send events, the note, the station, replay from there. A new session would throw the night away. Greenlight and kill are also sent events. Write the walk into the store or write why it died. Catalog.py is a crew, 4 specialists, one lead that runs them in order. Spark names the mess, Diverge spends 3 bits, Prototype makes one chip, POC draws a sample and the kill line. The JSON at the end is what the columns and the sample frame read. That's the whole product from our side. Create, send another event, read the same ID in console. So 4 products, 1 line. A click starts a session, agents picks up the mess and push it forward to proof of concept. When a station is wrong, you send that session back. Memory remembers what already died, console has the same ID, you still say yes or no. So Claude Managed Agents is the job behind a button in your product. We proved 3 things on camera. First, a click can start a session that walks for minutes, hands work to specialists, and is still there if you leave the tab. That is Spark to POC on Observe. Second, you can talk to the same job. Guide was not a new chat, it was a later event on the same ID. The sample screen had to change, console showed the node in the trace. Third, the next night is not a stranger. So we tried to reassert some statements. An instruction memory still had the kill. A store is not a longer thread. The studio is thin on purpose. Create a session, send another event, read the same ID in console. They run in the loop and the sandbox and the tools. You define the agent and you get the result. Use it when the walk needs file, other agent, and human yes or no. If you only need a title back, you already know that it's messages. The demos were so you could see the difference, not actual applications. So Clinic, Ledger, and Q were the same button on a different mess. If this helped, like the video, share it, and subscribe. I will keep posting AI development videos. We will find the interesting features together and how to actually use the tools. Thanks for watching.